Hello, my name is Tyler Wollmuth, and I'm the Assistant Materials Engineer for the North Dakota DOT. And I'm going to be sharing North Dakota hot mix asphalt update with you today. So I'll go over several things in this update. First off, just to give an idea of what's coming for the following year, North Dakota DOT bid out over 1.3 million tons of asphalt in 2023. And that is figured starting in January and going through the upcoming December 2023 bid opening. About 500,000 tons included wrap, so about 37%. And you can see in the slide there the binders that we have used. There's been a push to move to more of the -34 binder types, so we had almost 80% -34 binder for this year. So how we come up with our FAA and binder grades for asphalt projects can be seen on this selection guide. This is shared with our districts that do design on projects, and it's also used by our bituminous section to determine the bituminous recommendations that they do for projects. And it is primarily based on daily one-way easels or single axle loadings, and location is taken into account. Things like urban projects, roundabouts, those are taken into account and typically use a more polymer modified asphalt cement. Asphalt density results for this current year were similar to the last couple of years, with a mainline density average of 93.4% and a longitudinal joint density average of 92.1. So we pay incentive for several asphalt related things on a project. Ride incentive this past year, we paid just shy of 600,000 and had an average MRI of 39.3. Both those numbers were slight increases, or I guess numbers getting better from the previous year. Our average MRI last year was about 44, so a lower number is better for that stat. And our mainline density, we paid on average 101.3% pay factor on our asphalt projects due to the incentive that we offer for mainline density. Pilot projects constructed in 2023 include a Super Pave 5 project in the Fargo district. Higher wrap percentage project, which was 35% wrap, was constructed in the Valley City district. There were 10 projects each that used intelligent compaction and paver-mounted thermal profiling. And there were 5 projects that utilized PWL, or percent within limits, for density. Just a quick overview of what Super Pave 5 is. This is a different way to design a mix and construct a mix. The goal is to target 5% air voids at mix design and compact that mix to 95%. That may sound like we're taking oil out of the mix, but there's a highly reduced gyrations parameter using Super Pave 5, so there is actually an increase typically in binder content. And the project that we constructed in 2022 in the Minot district had an average density of 95.8 for mainline and 92.8 for the longitudinal joint. So we saw very successful use of this as far as density goes. There was one project constructed in 23, and there'll be one Super Pave 5 project constructed in 24. So pilot projects for 2024, a lot of the same types of projects. You can see the numbers of each one there. One thing to point out is the machine guidance milling. That is a project that'll be constructed in the Valley City district, and that will consist of adding machine guidance to a milling machine, running a scan of the road, and then using the guidance on the milling machine to control the profile and slope of how the milling machine goes down the road. The purpose of that is to improve cross slope profile and hopefully get a better ride. So we'll be doing half that project with the machine guidance and half with standard milling. In 2023, we constructed the pavement preservation test section project. This happened on Highway 1804 south of Bismarck. You can see the mile points here start right at the south side of University of Mary and continue south for about 25 miles to approximately reference point 47. Each of these sections were 3 miles in length, approximately, and you can see what was constructed there in the 8 sections on the right. Section 1 on the south end was a double chip seal, just a double application of our standard chip seal. You can see the cost per mile there. That includes all the incidentals like mobilization, contract bond, traffic control. So that cost per mile is about $193,000. Section 2 is a cape seal, which is a chip seal covered by a microsurface layer. Section 3 was a wrap cape seal, which was similar work type, just using the micromillings from the project and reusing that as wrap for the aggregate for the chip seal and the microsurface. Section 4 was a double microsurfacing. You can see the cost per mile there ranged from about $160,000 to $170,000 per mile. Section 5 was a wrap double microsurface, so all the aggregate that went into this section was wrap, which was acquired through the micromilling process on the project. Section 6 was ultra thin bonded wearing course, which is a 3/4 inch thick layer of an aggregate, oil mix similar to a hot mix, but with a very coarse, fine-sized coarse gradation. And that is put down on the spray paver, which sprayed CRS2P down as tack on that paver. Section 7 is a 4.75 millimeter HMA, which is a fine asphalt mixture. Section 8 we call the control section. That was our standard 2-inch overlay with FA 43 asphalt. Section 9 is not in the slides, but that's a 9.5 millimeter mix that was placed on University Drive, which is the end of the test section project, which is by University of Mary, and that runs all the way to Bismarck Expressway. We did more density profiling with the rolling density meter this summer. John, pictured there from our research section, did density profiling in both the Grand Forks and Fargo districts on projects that were constructed. One of those included a stone matrix asphalt project in the Fargo district that we got some unique results there. John also did a presentation at the Capri meeting this fall on density profiling. E-ticketing was successfully used on 15 projects during 2023. This was a special provision put in the plans that allows for e-tickets. We allowed it for all projects as a can use, and we required it on 15 projects as a must use. The plan would be to fully implement e-ticketing by the year 2026, where all projects with asphalt, ready-mix concrete, aggregate that supply tickets would use e-ticketing instead of the traditional paper tickets. We also acquired the DOT portal by Haul Hub. That was used last till 2023, and it will be used again in 2024. Some HMA specification changes to be aware of for 2024. If you're in a mix controller or mix designer class or the mix update, you're probably learning about this. And so we're changing some of the language in 430 around mix controller and mix designer and requirements for who's on the project and who submits mix designs. We're also making a change to the patching temperature requirement that's in our spec. That's been in there for a while a certain way, and it was causing a little bit of confusion. So we're updating some language there on patching. Another item that the DOT applied for was a grant through the FHWA Climate Challenge that we received in 2022. We received some money for that grant this past year, and we had FHWA put on a training class for us so that DOT contractors, whoever was able to attend that, could learn more about what the climate challenge is, what asphalt EPDs consist of, how to develop EPDs, and how to use those going forward. So the first step of us getting this grant was to put on the training, which we did. The next step will be to develop a proposal and then put that out to bid, to have a consultant help us at North Dakota DOT to develop a sustainable pavements evaluation process and try to develop some EPDs for our current asphalt pavements. Another pooled fund that we're involved in and that I talked about last year in this update is Pooled Fund 5478, which is Demo to Advance New Pavement Tech. So we received money through this pooled fund that we put towards a research project with the National Center for Asphalt Technology, NCAT. The time frame for this project, it started in 23 and will continue through 2026. What we did first was benchmark our mixes with HMA performance testing in 22 and 23. We're just wrapping up that 23 benchmarking. And then we developed a test section project for field verification, which is planned to be built in the 2024 construction season. And that project will be out for bids, hopefully in the February bid opening. Some of the future kind of work tasks for this project would be to develop some BMD specifications, and then North Dakota will start implementing this through pilot projects similar to the method that we used for intelligent compaction, paper mounted thermal profiling, Super Pave 5, where we'll select certain projects to start out using this on, and then hopefully in the future we would make this part of our permanent specification. So the HMA performance testing that our lab, central lab at Materials and Research, conducted this year was one project per district, 3 samples from each project. So these samples were pulled at the same time as our independent assurance tests were taken. And the reason we did that was to try to identify some production variability between the first third, middle third, last third of a paving project. So we have completed approximately half of those. We're done before our remodel project, and the other half will be completed here shortly. One thing that we've learned in our HMA benchmarking is that, the Hamburg wheel tracker is the rutting test we use, and that we identified an area in southwest North Dakota with an aggregate stripping issue, or also known as a moisture susceptibility problem. And we found, you can see in the picture there to the right, that the top 2 specimens, they didn't have very much rutting. They had very little moisture damage. The bottom 2 specimens definitely can see some moisture damage, and it's pulling the asphalt off of that aggregate, and it's causing some rutting. So we identified 2 or 3 areas right now, pits that we've used on projects, that we have this aggregate stripping issue, and we'll be doing some measures to try to correct that in the future. But basically the Hamburg wheel tracker is definitely a torture test, and it gives us some insight into our aggregate quality throughout the state. Pictured on the left here is another picture of one of the pits that we found that had the moisture damage. That water was clean and clear when it was put into the machine and the test was run, and it looked like the brown mud that you see there in the picture. That's how much of the aggregate was pulled out of those 2 specimens, the fine aggregate, and that's definitely a sign of some moisture damage there. So that pit was used on another project in North Dakota this year, and we added a liquid anti-stripping additive by change order. The contractor was more than willing to add that. They actually did some testing on their own, using the Hamburg wheel tracker and found very good results by adding a anti-strip agent. So we change order that to the project and have a few other areas that if we have projects pulled from those pits, we'll look to do the same thing. So that concludes my HMA update for the year. I hope you have an enjoyable time at your training and look forward to talking to or meeting all of you in the future. Thank you.